Hey everyone, Mike here with another Elm to Tower video. Let's talk builds here in Wayfinder. But I'm back with more. You know, I had enough people requested in some previous videos about like, hey, you know, I appreciate you showing us kind of the basics of how to set this up, but I want to see kind of more. So I thought, all right, let me do it. So I'm gonna make a little kind of, I would say almost like maybe like a mini series, you could say, of going over builds for different characters in the game. You know, I will say, like, I would not consider these like the meta builds, top tier builds, whatever. Like, you know, I will say like the stuff I'm gonna be showing you, you know, these aren't even mid-maxed, frankly, but they're, you know, end game ready. I've used I'm gonna be pretty much using all of these in, you know, mythic hunts here in the video to show them off and how effective they can be. I think they're all pretty fun. You know, I'm probably gonna try and do it for, you know, every character, you know, in these videos. I'm not going to cover every single character in the single video just because that would be a super long video, you know. So, but, you know, I'm going to try and focus on at least 2-3 characters per video. So I'm going to start here with Wingrave. You can see I'm here. This is kind of one of your starting characters. Probably folks pick up a lot because he is kind of that tank role. He has a lot of healing and other kinds of things that are beneficial for the playstyle. So I'm going to show a fun kind of play style slash kind of setup I've set up with my Wingrave. I think is pretty effective. For just healing, but also like tanking, and also, you know, just also doing pretty decent damage. So, you know, let me just jump into that. I'll give you an overview of everything here, and then I'll show you kind of a gameplay example, you know, pretty much similar to like that previous video I did. But for Wingrave here, you can see kind of from my stats on the right there, I kind of focused on, you know, having high ability power, high break power, you know, decent defenses and high health and stuff like that. You know, I kind of didn't really go into crit rating too much at all because that wasn't really necessary for this. You know, for my weapon I picked Bastion because that plays into Wingrave's playstyle, where it is, you know, you use your ability and it sends a big pulse of healing, heals Wingrave, and it heals allies around you as well. So, you know, that's pretty effective for this kind of playstyle I'm going for. And then, you know, for the accessories here, you can see I went for this Secrets of the Past set. For accessories, they all kind of work similarly, where two pieces of a set come from random drops from different sources in the game. Admittedly, there is a Wayfinder Wiki that I'll link below that is probably the most up to date and has a lot of good overview of where some of this stuff comes from, but it is not final. So, you know, it's still a work in progress. So maybe, you know, hey, maybe you're watching this and know some stuff, and feel free to add stuff. They're pretty open about it. You know, if you join the Wayfinder Discord and stuff like that, you know, they're doing the Lord's work trying to find all this stuff, because there is a lot of different accessories and a lot of different combinations of things and ways to get them. For these in particular, it's not too bad. You're going to need to unlock the Grand Deceiver Hunt slash the Maw, which is the mythic hunt version of that boss. The Seal of Eternity and the Book of Names accessories have a chance to drop from that boss fight, so you are going to have to probably fight that boss a couple or a few times to hopefully get them to drop. And then the Amulet of the Silver Codex can be unlocked by going to the engineer vendor that's in Skylight, where you can craft accessories from. So pretty much every set is set up that same way, where 2 are randomly dropped, 1 is going to be crafted from the engineer. So you can see with all 3 of these, I have a set that gives me 10% to my ability power, magic defense, and break power. So that's how I'm kind of bumping those stats up even further. You know, I'm doing the same thing with Echoes, where, you know, I just have a lot of max health set in there, but also a lot of break power and ability power. I'll probably still, you know, adjust this a little bit to maybe go more into break power, but I think even with the setup I have now, it's pretty strong. For abilities, I went full in on Radiant Pulse. As you can see at level 3, it gives a healing over time effect on the shield as you have it up. So that heals you and also allies if you're playing co-op, that'll heal them as well behind that. So it's pretty great. And then for Radiant Pulse, Righteous Strike, I just kind of, you know, bumped up the damage and the healing on that a little bit. His ultimate for the Aegis, making the big kind of bubble shield. I didn't upgrade this too much because, frankly, if you've used it, even its base level, you're pretty much immortal inside that thing. So I didn't really feel like it needs to be that much stronger, because, you know, I pretty much just use it for that moment to just kind of, you know, protect yourself in those kind of high damage potential moments in like a boss fight or something. So I just made it, you know, I just did the first level and extended the duration of the ability with that first perk. And then here I did hits against judge enemies deal increased break damage. I'm kind of building into that break. You'll see why once I kind of show the gameplay loop I'm going for with Wingrave, which is to proc a bunch of these healing pulse which is his passive, which makes it so when you do melee finishers, or if you're using guns, for instance, there's the eagle eye effect, which is that little kind of red dot you can see on enemies that'll do like a crit damage hit. That gives you like your pip for your ability that you can use on guns. When you do those on Wingrave, you send out like a little burst, like a little healing kind of like, it looks like a little whisper thing pop off Wingrave, and it'll heal him, it'll heal allies. And then with the affinities he has, you can build that thing out to be really potent, and you can proc it a ton of times with this kind of gameplay loop I'm going to show you. So I built with the perks and affinities for Instinct. I do plan on going all the way into this tree, as you can see, all the way to 25, because this like greatly improves that healing pulse. Is healing with this first perk, and the second perk makes it a healing over time effect. So you're just getting healing over time whenever you get one of those pulses. And this last one will give you 2 at the same time. It'll make an extra healing pulse, or I guess they'll send an extra one, so they'll send out multiple, so you can have multiple going at once and getting even more of that effect. And then for focus, you can see in this other one that makes when you receive a healing pulse, it gives you damage negation for a brief period, and also increases your weapon damage, your weapon power for that same period. So it's overall super effective at giving you a damage buff, some damage negation, and a lot more healing from both of these trees. So pretty effective loop, you'll see once I get into it. And then for lastly, the talents, I went into Rallying Cry because again, has a heal whenever it sends out a heal burst whenever I use just a Wayfinder ability itself. So you're already sending out a lot of healing. And then you can see Presence of Mind is a stacking buff where you get ability power for more stacks you have. And that plays into Wingrave really well because he has abilities, or the healing he does comes from his abilities mainly, where you're doing a Righteous Strike or the shield, and you're doing a bunch of healing to himself or for allies and things like that, and that improves that healing from those and improves the damage of those abilities also. Instead of going for that last perk in this heroism side, I actually moved over to immovable here just because it makes it so you can't be interrupted when you do attacks, which can also be useful for tanking. So if you're in the fray and let's say you get braked, not that it happens to be too much on Wingrave with the setup I have so far, but that just makes it so you can't be like stunned or staggered while you're doing stuff in case you need to like throw out an emergency heal or do things like that. So I'm going to jump into this mythic version of Broodmother. Not the hardest mythic boss or boss in general in the game, but I think it's a good way to just show you kind of an overview of how this works. All right, so now we're in the fight here. I'll show you real quick, doing decent damage, but I'm just going to show you kind of there's a healing pulse going off. So the thing with Wingrave is, the melee combo finisher you can actually get pretty quickly by just doing a light and then hold your heavy attack. You'll see that'll immediately proc one of those healing pulses for you. And you can see I got like a quick 300 health heal with, now I'm just constantly popping heals. So, this is pretty easy to do. Like I can just kind of keep doing this. So you can see there's like a brief cooldown on it, but it pretty much lasts all the time. So, as long as you're just kind of doing this, it's super effective. For breaking enemies, that's why I kind of wanted higher break power, because that heavy is the shield. So you can see, like, without even really trying too much, just doing those over and over, I was breaking the boss quite easily. But let me just show you kind of what my break power I have now. Even with this, I can go 1, 2, 3 shield hits, hold the last one. I'm pretty much in. The boss is already broken with an ability. And now you can see I can just kind of wail on this enemy, wail on abilities, just to have constant healing through either doing healing pulses through that kind of heavy shield slam kind of combo, or hitting abilities, and I'm just constantly staying up, and I can just kind of sit here, proc abilities. You can see that big green blast with those healing pulses, so that'll be healing allies and it heals myself. You can see they just even in this Mythic Hunt version, this boss just kind of can't do anything to me, and I can just kind of keep wailing, break him already again. Super effective setup here with Wingrave that you can just kind of keep looping breaks, keep just constantly healing, taunt him if you want to kind of, with that setup where I grab that one perk that makes it so I ability or have improved break damage. It's just super effective. Fodder enemies, I can quick do that. I'm just constantly healing from all of this with the setup that I have in a way that makes it so pretty hard to die, right? So I'll even let him sit here, and I'll actually just kind of stand here for a sec, take some damage, Ouch, this hurts. You know, I can hit abilities. You can already see I'm already pretty much back to where I was even with that quick setup, because you know, there's just so much healing I can get from Wingrave in and of itself. It's pretty easy to quickly kind of get your healing. You know, this could be pretty good in like scenarios where like you might need to use modifiers where there's like fire constantly on the ground, like poison. You know, this kind of can negate that stuff pretty hard, as you can see, like if you're even doing that stuff. You know, I got my ultimate. I don't really need to use it if I don't want to, but you know, might as well. Just because, you know, it's just never going to be a scenario where I'm not constantly having numbers coming up because I'm healing so much. So just, you know, fun setup here on its own, right? That just, you know, this boss can just kind of not do anything to me. There's my, you know, Bastion ability. You can see it, that was like that I kind of use as more of a big panic heal in case I somehow do take like a big burst of damage and it hits me way down. But it, you know, you can see if I fully max that out, and I can get it back pretty much right away just by, you know, doing the loop I was doing, and I already have that 2 pips back right after using it. So you can see there, pretty effective setup for Wingrave that I have here that I'm quite enjoying. Again, it's not even like a mid-max setup. I can be going into some of the things even further, like I'm going to be awakening, you know, Bastion, this weapon I'm using on him, and Wingrave himself, and it's going to be even better with, you know, with that kind of stuff. So that's Wingrave. I really like this setup. There might be like, you know, better top tier builds for like damage and other things like that, but that's what I really like for Wingrave. But let me move on to the next character I kind of wanted to go over the build I have for. So I'm on Venomess now. She's a character that I kind of used in previous videos, and I even got comments asking about this Venomess setup I have that I'm using, because I kind of wanted to, you know, build into Venomous's kind of traits of like kind of being a damage over time dealer with her poison, but she can also be kind of a support role in similar ways that Wingrave can, where she has a lot of healing effects on her abilities, but also kind of with some of her passives, and she can kind of play that support role and like almost in some ways be like a support healer role in the same way Wingrave can, but also can do pretty effective damage because of like her poison and damage over time stuff. So this is the setup I'm kind of going for. So right now I have, again, she's also Awakened 3. I've not done too much Mythic Hunt grinding yet to get down to 5, but that's kind of what I'm working towards now. So that's kind of why I have these setups built out. I went this Duskbringer rune cannon. This drops from the Astral Zephyr world boss. You can go watch one of the previous videos I did to show you how to take on that boss, but that's where this drops from. It's a pretty good weapon. It plays into her playstyle because its ability shoots out this black hole that kind of sits for a period of time. If enemies are in that kind of vicinity of it, they'll take damage over time. So you can kind of like stack that on top of the damage you're going to do with her poison damage over time to do just a lot of damage. You can see with the stats, I went high into ability power because, again, you know, you're going to be using her abilities a lot to spread poison around, and also the poison over time effect that a lot of her abilities leave on enemies as well. That will all scale off of that ability power. So the higher that is, the more damage your poison's going to be doing across the board. And also, I also went higher into crit rating and a decent amount into crit power, as you can see, because, you know, the more damage over time you're doing, the more chances of those, you know, poison stacks kind of critting and doing crit damage on top of that. So you're just gonna be able to do a lot of damage through that effect there. And that's kind of what I built into with some of her abilities. Like you can see here, I went all the way into Transfusion just because it has a lot of great healing effect for her and allies, because it sends out, you know, if you're playing solo, all of those effects will come back to you. If you're playing with allies, it'll kind of spread it to other allies. So I wanted to be able to have that kind of healing effect for, you know, myself and allies. So I went all the way in that. Then again with this, you know, it spawns additional poison clouds. I have a perk in her affinity tree, which makes it so when the poison clouds are up and she's standing in them, she will get healed over time. So that can be like another effective way to heal yourself. But that also, you know, I also increased the healing of this blast, because when you drop one of these bombs into poison clouds, that makes it more potent, more effective, and that'll also give you like a big burst of healing with that ability. So kind of, again, playing more into the healing sides of these abilities rather than the damage size, just because, you know, with the weapon I have and with, you know, the damage over time from the poison, that's already so effective that I don't need so much damage from these that I've found so far. I'm mainly just building into critting a lot with them. It becomes effective in and of itself rather than the abilities, if that makes sense. Last up here, you can see I increased this damage a little bit from this, just get a little bit more damage out of her. Another thing with her passive, I believe it is exposed weakness. This is something that I'm kind of building into because, again, when I'm hitting crits with a lot of enemies, you'll see this makes them weaker and take more damage from all sources when they have this effect on. So this is like kind of one of those passive things that's just kind of actively always happening because I'm constantly critting with my abilities or with the poison damage over time, so they're always kind of being reduced by that. So I wanted to build into that just to be able to do a lot more damage with her affinities. So you can see I kind of went into this one here. This is kind of what I'm going into. So you can see increased crit chance onto poison targets and critical hits against poison enemies will leave a poison cloud in the area. There's more chances to have more poison clouds. Then again, I'm going to be doing that crit damage percentage even more building into this. And then I picked these two perks because you can see that increases the overall damage of her poison over time here. And then this, again, this is the one I just mentioned where it makes it so if Venomous is standing in one of her poison clouds, you just get a little bit of healing extra over time. Talents is where I kind of am building into that exposed weakness stuff a little bit. So you can see that's this right tree, this tactics tree, where I grabbed exposed weakness. I just made it more powerful, so now it's 15% instead of just that 10% that it would be normally. And then here, this also makes it so when I hit enemies that are in that state, or allies do, they will get a healing effect as well for all the hits they do on them. So that's pretty good. The last thing I did was actually the stamina one, just so I can be more mobile as Venomous, because she moves around, you can move around a lot. She's, a little bit tankier in this, but I like being able to move around and not get, caught up too much and a ton of enemies. So I just kind of built into this because I'm already doing tons of crits. This gives me just a bunch of stamina back for free, basically, because I'm already doing so much crit stuff there, and just grab some other things again to kind of boost those effects and things like that. For the accessories, I went for this Evanor Caretaker set. You can see it gives me 10% in ability power, crit rating, and my max health. So all pretty good things for Venomous to kind of keep her, give a little more extra max health to give her, make her so she's not as vulnerable at lower health stages. That's kind of what I like to prefer to build into. And then, giving her decent crit rating to increase that crit chance and ability power. This set, I believe, comes from doing, let me check my notes real quick. This comes from doing any lost zone in the game, so the randomized dungeons. You're going to need to use a flora imbuement on the dungeons. I don't know 100%, honestly, if it depends on if it's a single flora or a double flora. I think that doesn't matter, but I could be wrong. I don't know for sure 100% about that. Again, it's still kind of a lot of this information is trying to be figured out over time. But you can get the amulet of the cycle and circlet of the cycle to drop from doing those, and then ring of the cycle is crafting it at the engineer. So that's the kind of stuff I went for. So pretty fun setup with Venomous. She's pretty potent. Again, I'll jump into a boss here and show you how effective this can be with her damage over time stuff. So I'm gonna be jumping into this new one of the new bosses here that was added for 0.0, our big rat boy, the Renegade. I'm just already start off by, putting a bunch of poison on him. You can see it's already being pretty effective. That on him, because why not? He's gonna do his rat shenanigans. Yeah, I'll even take some hits in this, kind of show off how quickly you can just kind of get your health back under with this setup I have. Makes poison clouds. I can even with the setup I have with her, because the potency of the healing on some of these abilities I have, pretty easily can survive a lot of these attacks, even though I'm a little under leveled for the fight. I think I'm only like 100 under, which isn't too bad for most things, but as you can see, it's still pretty effective. Sent in more rats after us. Clear those out. Now he's back up. I'm gonna drop this on him with all the poison clouds. There you go, even with all that stuff. I think at this part, it's good to just use these, but it's fine. You can see I'm still doing quite a decent amount of damage to him regardless. Let's use our ult here, put a ton of poison on there. Drop another one of these because I can. Oh, here we go. They caught me while his guard broke. That's okay, because I can still do some of this. Can do one of these. Well, definitely chaotic, as you can see with some of the healing effects I have on there. Still make it work regardless. Trying to hit these grapples, but it seems like they have like a weird range. Maybe that's also something I'm missing here. There we go. But even so, frankly, I was just kind of running around like a hooligan there at the end. But you can see even with like, the effectiveness of our poison, if you're building into that, you can kind of survive through so much stuff with that in general. So that worked out. So there you go. That's kind of, those are kind of my setups here for these characters. I think they're both pretty potent builds because they play into that kind of healing role that Venomous can have. I think this is good for like kind of solo play or even playing with other players because you're throwing a lot of healing around and all that with that stuff as well. But that's gonna do it for this video on these kind of builds. Again, I'm gonna do another video here. You'll probably see one pretty soon after this one. I will go over a couple other characters and the build setups I have for them. But if you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching. These will probably be my last set of videos for Wayfinder, I should point out, but I do plan on maybe covering the game if they do plan on doing more content for it, but we just haven't had word on that yet. So, I thought I'd just still do some fun videos like this because, people ask for them. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.